19 beautiful black actresses who became ugly due to plastic surgery. Hollywood sells us the illusion of timeless beauty, but behind the lights, the price is often devastating. These women were icons, talented, admired, and once untouchable. Yet the industry demanded more. Stay young, stay flawless, or disappear. Fame became pressure, praise turned into judgment, and perfection became a trap with no escape. What you're about to see isn't gossip or mockery. It's the harsh reality of how Hollywood treats women when time dares to move forward. Watch closely because some of these transformations will shock you. If this story moves you, comment your thoughts below and subscribe to Black Excellence Legends for the truth behind the fame. Vanessa Williams. Vanessa Williams is a name that reshaped American beauty standards long before Hollywood was ready to accept change. In 1984, she made history as the first black woman crowned Miss America, a cultural milestone watched by nearly 40 million viewers nationwide. Her victory symbolized progress, but it also placed her under an unforgiving spotlight where perfection was not optional, it was demanded. When a nude photo scandal forced her to relinquish the crown, the fallout was swift and brutal, exposing how fragile success could be for a black woman in a judgment-driven industry. Rather than disappear, Vanessa rebuilt her career through talent and discipline. She transitioned into music, earning multiple Grammy nominations, and later became a respected actress with memorable performances in Soul Food, Ugly Betty, and Desperate Housewives. By the early 2000s, she had accumulated more than 3 decades of public visibility, an unusually long run in an industry obsessed with youth. Yet longevity came with a cost. Hollywood rarely celebrates aging women the way it honors their male counterparts, and Vanessa often faced intense scrutiny over her appearance during red carpet appearances and televised roles. Over the years, public conversations about cosmetic enhancements have followed her, fueled by side-by-side comparisons of past and present photos. Importantly, Williams herself has never publicly detailed specific procedures, and responsible discussion must separate verified facts from online speculation. What is undeniable, however, is the pressure placed on women, especially women of color, to remain visually unchanged while time inevitably moves forward. In an era where social media magnifies every detail, even subtle changes become headlines. Today, Vanessa Williams remains active, confident, and professionally relevant, a testament to resilience rather than surface aesthetics. Her story is not about loss of beauty, but about survival within a system that profits from impossible standards. The real question is not how she looks now, but why society still expects women to outrun time itself and punishes them when they cannot. Vivica A. Fox. Vivica A. Fox rose to prominence in the 1990s as one of Hollywood's most recognizable leading women, blending elegance, intelligence, and undeniable screen presence. Her breakout role in Independence Day placed her in a global blockbuster that grossed over $800 million worldwide, instantly cementing her status. She followed that success with roles in Set It Off, Soul Food, and Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill, proving she could move seamlessly between drama, action, and ensemble storytelling. At her peak, Vivica represented a rare balance, mainstream appeal without sacrificing individuality. However, Hollywood's treatment of aging actresses has long been unforgiving. As the industry shifted toward younger faces in the early 2000s, opportunities for women over 40 began to narrow. Vivica remained visible through television projects, producing roles, and red carpet appearances, yet public attention increasingly drifted away from her work and toward her appearance. Media outlets and online commentary frequently compared her current look to archival photos, a pattern that reflects a broader cultural fixation rather than confirmed personal disclosures. It is important to state clearly that Vivica A. Fox has not publicly provided a detailed list of cosmetic procedures. Any responsible discussion must acknowledge that appearance changes can result from makeup, lighting, aging, weight fluctuation, or styling choices. What is verifiable is the relentless scrutiny she has faced. Scrutiny rarely applied with the same intensity to male actors of similar age. Despite shifting narratives, Vivica has sustained a decades-long career in an industry where longevity is rare. She has continued acting, producing, and mentoring younger talent, demonstrating adaptability rather than decline. Her story ultimately highlights a deeper issue: how Hollywood conditions audiences to measure women's value through visual permanence instead of professional endurance. Vivica A. Fox's legacy is not defined by speculation, but by resilience, reinvention, and a refusal to vanish quietly. Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams built her empire not through scripted roles, but through raw, unapologetic personality. Beginning her career as a radio DJ, she became famous for fearless commentary and an ability to dominate conversations others avoided. That boldness eventually translated into The Wendy Williams Show, which ran for more than a decade and reached millions of viewers daily, turning Wendy into one of the most recognizable talk show hosts in American television. Unlike traditional celebrities, Wendy's brand was deeply personal. Her audience followed not only her opinions, but also her life, marriage, motherhood, health struggles, and public controversies. This transparency, while powerful, came at a cost. Being constantly visible meant her appearance was endlessly dissected, often overshadowing her professional achievements. Over time, public discussion increasingly focused on her physical changes rather than her influence as a media figure. Wendy has openly acknowledged undergoing certain cosmetic procedures, including breast augmentation and body contouring, distinguishing her from celebrities who avoid the topic entirely. However, it is equally important to contextualize these decisions within a career built on constant exposure. Television is unforgiving, especially for women whose faces become their brand. Add to that years of personal stress, high-profile marital betrayal, health challenges, and the pressure of daily live broadcasting, and the toll becomes clearer without resorting to sensationalism. By the late 2000s, Wendy's health struggles, including Graves' disease and lymphedema, significantly impacted her ability to remain on air. These conditions, confirmed publicly, contributed to physical changes often misattributed solely to cosmetic choices. As her show ended, public discourse shifted from admiration to speculation, illustrating how quickly fame can turn. Wendy Williams' story is not a cautionary tale about vanity, but a complex portrait of visibility, vulnerability, and the cost of turning one's life into entertainment. Her legacy lies in influence, not appearance, and in exposing how relentlessly the spotlight consumes those who live within it. Ray McCoy. Ray McCoy entered popular culture with a magnetic presence that felt effortless rather than manufactured. Her breakout role in The Players Club, 1998, positioned her as a symbol of late 1990s glamour, confident, poised, and unmistakably in control of her image. Unlike many contemporaries, Ray built recognition through a blend of film, television, and public visibility, later anchoring her career with All of Us, a sitcom that ran multiple seasons and broadened her audience beyond cult status. As her profile grew, so did scrutiny. The entertainment industry often treats women's personal lives as extensions of their careers, and Ray's high-profile marriage to Michael Missick, former premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands, intensified public interest. When the marriage ended amid widely reported allegations and legal controversies surrounding Missick, media narratives shifted sharply. Rather than focusing on Ray's professional consistency, coverage frequently centered on her appearance, composure, and supposed reinvention. Over time, public conversation has included speculation about cosmetic changes. It is essential to be precise. Ray has not published a detailed account of specific procedures, and responsible commentary avoids assigning causes without confirmation. Aging, styling, lighting, and camera formats can dramatically alter how a person appears on screen. What is verifiable is the disproportionate attention placed on women's faces as markers of relevance, especially once they pass a certain age threshold. Despite changing narratives, LisaRaye has remained visible across television projects, reality formats, and entrepreneurship. She has spoken candidly about self-worth, independence, and boundaries, topics that resonate beyond aesthetics. Her story reflects a broader truth about Hollywood. Longevity for women often requires constant recalibration, not because talent fades, but because expectations become narrower. LisaRaye McCoy's career endures not through silence, but through persistence in an environment that rarely allows women to evolve without judgment. NeNe Leakes. NeNe Leakes transformed reality television from background entertainment into a platform for unmistakable star power. When The Real Housewives of Atlanta premiered, NeNe quickly emerged as its breakout figure, sharp-tongued, charismatic, and unafraid to command attention. Her impact extended far beyond the franchise, helping elevate the show into one of Bravo's highest-rated series and turning catchphrases into cultural currency. Unlike scripted actors, NeNe's fame was built on unscripted visibility. Every moment, successes, arguments, triumphs, and losses, played out before millions. That level of exposure brings opportunity, but it also invites relentless evaluation, particularly of appearance. As NeNe's profile expanded into scripted roles on Glee and Broadway, public discourse increasingly shifted from her influence to her looks, a familiar pattern for women whose visibility does not fade quietly. NeNe has openly acknowledged undergoing cosmetic procedures over the years, including changes she has discussed publicly, which distinguishes her narrative from rumor-based speculation. Even so, confirmed facts often became overshadowed by exaggerated commentary online. The pressure intensified during deeply personal chapters of her life, including marital struggles and the widely shared grief following the death of her husband, Greg Leakes, in 2021. Loss, stress, and prolonged public scrutiny can reshape a person far beyond what cameras capture. Yet reducing NeNe Leakes to physical change alone misses the larger story. She redefined what a reality star could become, leveraging authenticity into mainstream crossover success. Her presence shifted network expectations, opening doors for others while challenging who gets to be loud, complex, and visible on television. NeNe's legacy is not rooted in perfection, but in impact. She proved that influence does not require conformity, even when the cost of standing out is constant judgment. In an industry quick to discard women once narratives shift, NeNe Leakes remains a figure audiences cannot ignore, because presence, once established, does not disappear easily. Kim Fields. Kim Fields represents a rare Hollywood journey shaped by early fame, discipline, and a deliberate refusal to burn out. She became a household name as a teenager through The Facts of Life, a long-running sitcom that turned her into one of America's most recognizable child stars. Unlike many peers who struggled after early success, Fields chose education and personal growth, later earning a degree and returning to the industry with intention rather than urgency. As an adult, Kim Fields transitioned into producing and directing, carving a quieter but steadier path behind the camera. Her work expanded across television formats, including acting roles and family-oriented projects that emphasize stability over spectacle. However, when she re-entered the public spotlight through reality television, the rules changed. Reality formats prioritize visibility, confrontation, and constant visual comparison, an environment far removed from the structured storytelling that shaped her earlier career. Public commentary soon focused less on her experience and more on how she looked on screen. Cameras built for high-definition scrutiny amplified normal signs of aging, fueling online discussions that often overshadowed her professionalism. Importantly, Kim Fields has not released a detailed public account of cosmetic procedures, and responsible coverage must avoid attributing appearance changes to unverified causes. Lighting, styling, weight fluctuation, and time itself are powerful variables rarely acknowledged in viral narratives. What makes Kim Fields' story compelling is her resistance to being defined by the spotlight. She has repeatedly emphasized balance, faith, and boundaries, values that run counter to an industry built on constant exposure. Rather than chase relevance through controversy, she has chosen selective visibility, prioritizing longevity over noise. In an era that rewards extremes, Kim Fields stands as an example of measured success, reminding audiences that survival in entertainment does not always require reinvention. It sometimes requires restraint. Tichina Arnold. Tichina Arnold built her legacy on presence rather than polish. From her unforgettable role as Pam on Martin to her commanding performance as Rochelle in Everybody Hates Chris, Arnold mastered a rare skill, making humor feel grounded and human. Her characters resonated because they reflected real attitudes, frustrations, and confidence, traits that cannot be manufactured through image alone. For years, Arnold maintained steady work in television, voice acting, and stage projects, navigating an industry that often sidelines comedic actresses as they age. As Hollywood standards tightened around youth and surface appeal, opportunities became less predictable. Public visibility increasingly came with commentary, not just on her work, but on her appearance, a shift that mirrors a larger pattern affecting women whose careers extend beyond their initial peak. Arnold has been candid about personal challenges, including a painful public betrayal in her marriage that played out during the height of social media amplification. Emotional stress, life transitions, and relentless scrutiny can alter how a person carries themselves. Yet such context is often erased in favor of simplified narratives. While discussions about cosmetic changes circulate online, there is no comprehensive public disclosure from Arnold detailing specific procedures, and ethical storytelling avoids presenting speculation as fact. What distinguishes Tichina Arnold is resilience rooted in craft. She continued working across genres, mentoring younger performers, and maintaining relevance without abandoning authenticity. Her longevity underscores a critical truth. Talent sustains careers longer than trends, even when attention shifts. Tichina Arnold's story is not about transformation for approval, but endurance amid expectation. In a system that rewards reinvention while punishing aging, she remains a reminder that identity built on skill and character cannot be easily erased, no matter how loud the commentary becomes. Trina McGee. Trina McGee is best remembered for her role as Angela Moore on Boy Meets World, a groundbreaking character who quietly expanded representation on 1990s network television. At a time when interracial relationships were rarely normalized on primetime sitcoms, her presence carried cultural weight far beyond screen time. Yet, like many actors whose fame peaks within a single iconic role, McGee's career path after the show reflected the industry's limited patience with women once youthful novelty fades. Following the series, McGee continued acting, but opportunities became inconsistent. Hollywood's casting landscape for women over 40, particularly women of color, has historically been narrow, often pushing performers into invisibility rather than evolution. As years passed, public discussions shifted away from McGee's contributions toward her appearance, fueled by social media comparisons that flattened her identity into before and after imagery. McGee herself has spoken openly about the pressures of the industry, including racism, ageism, and the psychological toll of being overlooked. While online narratives frequently speculate about cosmetic alterations, there is no verified public record detailing specific procedures. Responsible storytelling recognizes that aging, health, lighting, and stress can dramatically influence appearance, especially when magnified by high-definition media and viral commentary. In recent years, Trina McGee has re-emerged with greater control over her narrative, participating in retrospectives and discussions that contextualize her experience rather than reduce it. Her story highlights a recurring reality in entertainment. Visibility does not guarantee security, and cultural impact does not always translate into sustained opportunity. McGee's legacy lies not in how she looks today, but in how she quietly helped reshape television norms, often without receiving the credit afforded to louder narratives. LaToya Jackson. LaToya Jackson grew up inside one of the most scrutinized families in modern music history. As a member of the Jackson family, she lived under constant comparison to global icons whose fame redefined celebrity itself. While LaToya pursued music, television, and entrepreneurship, her career unfolded beneath a shadow few could escape, where individuality was often measured against impossibly high standards set by others. From the early stages of her public life, LaToya faced relentless judgment about talent, relevance, and especially appearance. Unlike her siblings, whose transformations became cultural phenomena, LaToya's evolution was frequently framed as deviation rather than reinvention. This imbalance shaped public perception and intensified scrutiny, particularly during periods when her personal life became tabloid material. LaToya has openly discussed surviving an abusive marriage that involved manipulation and control, a chapter that deeply affected her sense of autonomy. In such environments, reclaiming control over image, decisions, and identity can become a survival mechanism rather than a vanity-driven choice. While cosmetic changes are often cited in online discourse, LaToya herself has spoken more about emotional recovery and independence than about specific procedures, and ethical narratives must respect that distinction. In later years, LaToya rebuilt her public presence through reality television, advocacy, and self-directed projects, reframing herself as a survivor rather than a spectacle. Her story reflects the cost of growing up in permanent comparison and the difficulty of being seen as an individual within a legendary lineage. LaToya Jackson's journey is not about losing identity, but about reclaiming it in an industry that rarely allows women, especially famous daughters, to define themselves on their own terms. Patti LaBelle. Patti LaBelle is not merely a singer. She is a cultural institution whose voice helped define modern soul and R&B. Rising to prominence in the 1960s with Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells, she later reinvented herself as a solo powerhouse, delivering classics like Lady Marmalade and earning multiple Grammy Awards over a career spanning more than 6 decades. Few artists have remained vocally formidable across so many eras, and even fewer have carried their influence with such consistency. As time passed, public attention increasingly shifted from Patti's musical legacy to her physical appearance, an unfortunate pattern for women who age in the spotlight. Unlike younger artists whose careers are still forming, LaBelle's work is already canonized. Yet media narratives often prioritized visual comparison over artistic contribution, questioning how a legend should look rather than acknowledging what she continues to deliver on stage. Patti herself has rarely centered these discussions, instead allowing her performances to speak. What is verifiable is that LaBelle has continued touring and recording well into her later years, a feat requiring extraordinary discipline and health management. Vocal longevity at that level is rare, and sustaining it involves rigorous care, not superficial fixes. Public speculation about cosmetic enhancements has circulated for years, but Patti LaBelle has never built her brand around image denial or detailed explanations. Her approach reflects an older generation of performers who valued craft over commentary. Today, Patti LaBelle's relevance is not rooted in visual preservation, but in emotional resonance. Her voice still carries authority, vulnerability, and power, qualities no procedure can manufacture. Her story reminds audiences that true legacy is measured not by how closely one resembles their past, but but by how authentically they continue to perform in the present. Lil Kim. Lil Kim changed the visual and lyrical language of female hip-hop. Emerging in the mid-1990s under the mentorship of the notorious B.I.G., she introduced a fearless blend of sexual autonomy, technical skill, and unapologetic confidence. Her debut album, Hardcore, reshaped expectations for women in rap, influencing generations who followed. Kim was not just part of hip-hop culture, she disrupted it. However, groundbreaking visibility often comes with disproportionate scrutiny. As Lil Kim's fame grew, so did invasive commentary about her body, face, and skin tone. Unlike male peers, whose aging was framed as evolution, Kim's appearance became a constant headline. She has publicly spoken about surviving abusive relationships and the long-term psychological damage inflicted by emotional degradation, context often ignored when discussing her public image. Lil Kim has acknowledged undergoing cosmetic procedures over the years, a fact she has not entirely hidden. Yet reducing her narrative to physical change alone oversimplifies a career shaped by trauma, survival, and relentless public comparison. The entertainment industry, particularly hip-hop, has historically placed brutal standards on women while offering little protection from objectification. Despite shifting public opinion, Lil Kim's influence remains undeniable. Contemporary artists openly cite her as a blueprint, from fashion to lyrical freedom. While debates about her appearance continue online, her impact is already secured in music history. Lil Kim's story is not about perfection lost, but about the cost of visibility in a culture that consumes icons without offering grace. Her legacy lives not in how she looks today, but in how boldly she changed the rules forever. Pepa, known globally as one half of the groundbreaking duo Salt and Pepa, helped redefine women's power in hip-hop long before the genre was ready to fully accept it. Emerging in the late 1980s, she and her group shattered barriers by blending bold femininity, assertive lyrics, and mainstream appeal. At a time when female rappers were often marginalized, Salt and Pepa sold millions of records worldwide and became the first female rap group to achieve multi-platinum success, changing the industry's economic expectations for women forever. Pepa's image was never about softness or conformity. Her sharp features, athletic energy, and fearless stage presence contrasted sharply with traditional beauty standards, making her instantly recognizable. Yet as the group's commercial peak faded and media culture evolved into an era of constant visual comparison, public focus gradually drifted away from her musical legacy toward her appearance. For artists whose faces were once seen primarily through album covers and music videos, the rise of high-definition cameras and social media intensified scrutiny in ways earlier generations never faced. Speculation surrounding cosmetic changes has circulated online, but Pepa has not built her public identity around explaining or defending her appearance. More importantly, her career cannot be reduced to surface-level debate. She remains a pioneer whose influence extends into fashion, performance confidence, and female autonomy in rap. Many contemporary artists owe their freedom of expression to the foundation Salt and Pepa established decades earlier. Pepa's story illustrates a larger truth about cultural innovators. Society often celebrates disruption in the moment, then judges its creators harshly once novelty fades. Yet innovation does not expire. Her legacy lives in every woman who steps into hip-hop without apology, proving that impact outlasts image, and that trailblazers rarely receive the grace they deserve while still in view. T-Boz, the unmistakable voice of TLC, stood at the center of one of the most successful girl groups in music history. With over 65 million records sold worldwide, TLC did more than dominate charts. They shaped 1990s R&B and pop culture. T-Boz's husky, emotionally textured vocals gave the group its grounding force, balancing experimentation with authenticity in an era defined by rapid change. Behind the success, however, was a life marked by resilience. T-Boz has lived with sickle cell disease since childhood, a serious condition that has repeatedly threatened her health and required extensive medical treatment. Managing chronic illness while sustaining a demanding music career placed extraordinary strain on her body long before aging became a public talking point. These realities are often overlooked when audiences assess physical change through a purely cosmetic lens. The devastating loss of Lisa "Left Eye" Lopez in 2002 altered TLC permanently. Grief, health struggles, and the pressure to preserve a legendary brand converged in ways few performers are equipped to handle. As public attention fixated on appearances rather than context, discussions about T-Boz's look increasingly overshadowed her endurance and vocal discipline. Yet she has never framed her identity around visual perfection, instead emphasizing survival, wellness, and artistic integrity. T-Boz continues to perform, advocate for health awareness, and protect TLC's legacy with intention rather than spectacle. Her journey underscores how easily audiences forget the human cost behind entertainment. T-Boz's story is not about maintaining an image frozen in time, but about enduring illness, loss, and expectation while still standing. In an industry that rarely allows women to age publicly with dignity, her persistence is its own quiet form of defiance. Tiny Harris. Tiny Harris first rose to prominence as a core member of Xscape, one of the most influential female R&B groups of the 1990s. At a time when girl groups dominated charts through vocal power and emotional delivery, Tiny stood out not for spectacle, but for tone, soft, controlled, and instantly recognizable. Xscape's success was measurable, with multi-platinum albums and sold-out tours that secured Tiny's place in R&B history long before reality television entered her life. As the music industry shifted, Tiny's public identity gradually expanded beyond performance. Her marriage to rapper T.I. placed her under a different kind of spotlight, one where private life became public currency. Reality television amplified that exposure, turning moments of vulnerability, conflict, and reconciliation into serialized entertainment. With that shift came intensified attention to appearance, often eclipsing her musical foundation. Tiny has spoken openly at different points about self-confidence and the pressure women face to meet ever-changing beauty expectations. In a media environment driven by visuals, even minor changes can dominate headlines while professional contributions fade into the background. What remains factual is that Tiny's career spans songwriting, performance, and entrepreneurship, an evolution rarely acknowledged when discussion fixates on surface-level narratives. Despite scrutiny, Tiny Harris has maintained relevance through adaptability rather than reinvention. Her longevity reflects a broader reality for women in entertainment. Survival often requires navigating judgment without allowing it to define identity. Tiny's story is not about chasing perfection, but about balancing legacy with visibility in an era where fame demands constant exposure. Her impact endures not because of how she is perceived today, but because of what she helped build when the spotlight was earned through sound, not spectacle. Foxy Brown. Foxy Brown emerged in the mid-1990s as one of hip-hop's most commanding female voices, blending lyrical aggression with unapologetic confidence. Her debut album, Il Na Na, debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts, a rare achievement that positioned her as a defining force during rap's golden era. Foxy did not merely participate in hip-hop culture, she asserted authority within it, standing shoulder to shoulder with male contemporaries in a fiercely competitive landscape. However, rapid fame came with intense pressure. Legal issues, industry conflict, and later severe hearing loss disrupted her momentum at a time when consistency was critical. These challenges coincided with a cultural shift that increasingly judged women in hip-hop not only by skill, but by appearance. public narratives gradually shifted away from Foxy's technical ability toward visual comparison, a pattern familiar to many women whose careers extend beyond their initial rise. Foxy Brown has never framed her journey as flawless. She has acknowledged struggles with health, personal setbacks, and the mental toll of sustained scrutiny. While speculation about physical changes circulates online, verified facts point instead to a career repeatedly interrupted by forces beyond simple image control. Reducing her story to surface-level transformation ignores the structural barriers and personal obstacles that shaped her trajectory. Today, Foxy Brown's influence is woven into hip-hop's foundation. Her presence opened doors for lyrical freedom, stylistic boldness, and female authority in rap. Trends evolve, appearances change, but cultural impact remains fixed. Foxy's legacy is not diminished by time. It is secured by the fact that many voices dominating the genre today exist because she helped normalize women claiming space without permission. Trina emerged from Miami at the turn of the millennium with a voice and presence that demanded attention. Her 2000 debut, Da Baddest Bitch, announced a new archetype in Southern hip-hop: confident, commanding, and unapologetically female. At a time when women in rap were often boxed into novelty roles, Trina asserted authority through lyrical directness and regional authenticity, helping put Miami firmly on the rap map. Over the next decade, she delivered consistent charting projects, collaborated across genres, and cultivated a loyal fan base that valued continuity over trend chasing. As hip-hop's visual economy intensified in the 2000s, the conversation around women artists increasingly drifted from craft to optics. For veterans like Trina, whose career predated social media's algorithmic glare, this shift created a new pressure set. Appearances became content, and legacy was too often filtered through viral snapshots rather than catalogs. Importantly, Trina has spoken more about ownership, independence, and longevity than about aesthetics, emphasizing business acumen and control of her brand as markers of success. What remains verifiable is her sustained relevance. Trina has continued releasing music, mentoring emerging artists, and maintaining a visible presence without abandoning the identity that defined her rise. In an industry that rewards reinvention but rarely honors endurance, her steadiness is itself a statement. Trina's story underscores a broader truth. Cultural architects are often judged by changing standards they did not create. Yet impact does not evaporate with fashion cycles. It persists in influence, in regional pride, and in the confidence she helped normalize for women claiming space in hip-hop on their own terms. Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj entered mainstream consciousness as a once-in-a-generation disruptor. With Pink Friday debuting at #1, she fused technical virtuosity, theatricality, and pop crossover appeal in a way that reshaped the commercial ceiling for women in rap. Her ability to switch flows, voices, and personas expanded expectations of what a female rapper could deliver, artistically and economically. By the early 2000s, Nicki was not just chart-dominant, she was a cultural reference point. That level of prominence comes with intensified scrutiny. As Nicki's visibility grew, so did commentary about her image, often eclipsing discussion of lyricism, touring stamina, and business leverage. She has spoken candidly in interviews about the realities of competition and the pressure to remain distinctive in a rapidly evolving market. While online narratives frequently fixate on visuals, verified milestones tell a fuller story. Sustained chart performance, global tours, and influence measurable in the generation of artists who cite her as blueprint. Crucially, Nicki's career illustrates how modern fame collapses boundaries between music, branding, and spectacle. Every release exists within a 24/7 feedback loop that magnifies perception. Yet through shifts in sound and strategy, she has maintained a core through line: precision, ambition, and control over narrative when possible. Nicki Minaj's legacy is not a single era frozen in time, but an ongoing negotiation between innovation and expectation. In a genre that consumes novelty quickly, she has remained central by redefining scale. The enduring question is not how she compares to her past, but how profoundly she altered the present, and how long that imprint will shape the future of rap. K. Michelle built her reputation on emotional honesty and vocal intensity, emerging as a compelling R&B voice in the early 2000s. Her rise was fueled not only by studio releases, but also by reality television exposure, where audiences connected to her candor about relationships, ambition, and vulnerability. That transparency helped her music resonate, turning personal pain into commercially successful records and sold-out tours. Yet visibility came with consequences. As her platform expanded, so did scrutiny, especially around body image. K. Michelle has publicly discussed undergoing cosmetic procedures in pursuit of a desired silhouette, and more importantly, the serious health complications that followed. These disclosures are verifiable and central to her narrative. Prolonged pain, corrective surgeries, and a public reckoning with choices made under intense industry pressure. Rather than hide the experience, she reframed it as a warning, emphasizing recovery, accountability, and the importance of informed decision-making. What distinguishes K. Michelle's story is agency. She did not allow the conversation to be defined by rumor. She addressed it directly, redirecting focus to health and self-respect. Professionally, she continued releasing music, performing live, and evolving creatively, even as she announced transitions toward different genres and career chapters. Her endurance underscores a broader reality for women in entertainment. Honesty can be costly in the short term, but it builds credibility that outlasts trends. K. Michelle's legacy is not reduced to a single era or controversy. It rests on vocal skill, emotional clarity, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths in public. In an industry that often rewards silence over candor, her choice to speak plainly reframed her journey from spectacle to survival, and from judgment to growth. Amara La Negra entered mainstream visibility as a multifaceted artist, singer, dancer, actress, whose identity challenged narrow standards within Latin entertainment. From the outset, she spoke openly about colorism, texture bias, and the pressure to conform, using her platform to articulate experiences often sidelined in pop discourse. That advocacy made her both visible and vulnerable in an industry that commodifies difference while resisting change. Reality television amplified her reach, but it also intensified scrutiny. As with many public figures whose lives become content, discussion frequently drifted from craft to appearance. Amara has addressed decisions about her body publicly, emphasizing the complexities of choice in a marketplace that rewards extremes. Verified accounts highlight not sensationalism, but the consequences of pressure, physical discomfort, reevaluation, and the realization that visibility does not guarantee protection. Crucially, Amara's narrative centers on reclamation. She has continued to foreground artistry, entrepreneurship, and self-definition, resisting attempts to flatten her identity into a single storyline. Her work extends beyond performance into cultural commentary, reminding audiences that representation is not a moment, but a sustained effort that requires resilience. Amara La Negra's journey illustrates how modern fame compresses time. Decisions are made quickly, judgments arrive instantly, and recovery happens in public. Yet her persistence reframes the conversation. The measure of success is not conformity, but continuity, continuing to create, to speak, and to insist on complexity. In a media ecosystem hungry for spectacle, Amara's refusal to be simplified stands as her most enduring statement. Their talent never faded, but the spotlight changed. Society celebrates beauty, yet punishes women for aging. We praise youth, but abandon experience. The question is no longer what happened to them, but why did it happen at all? Were these choices personal freedom or survival in an unforgiving industry? And who truly benefits from these impossible standards? This story isn't about blame, it's about awareness. Now we want to hear from you. Which story affected you the most, and why? Do you think Hollywood owes these women more grace? Drop your thoughts in the comments and join the conversation on Black Excellence Legends.